Here. Graham.
Yes.
Miller.
Here.
Keller.
I guess we have no public comments. An update from the superintendent.
One quick update. Jimmy sent to your accounts the board passwords for your board accounts and then reset to all on the main So you can get the new password and then log in and change your password.
Something changed, is where we need to do password.
You had a domain that was like main board 207, everyone's going to have main 207.
No, that's not accurate. That's not accurate.
What is it?
It's the way we're managing it on the back end, and it was an unintended consequence of making some changes on the back
But I
end.
thought everybody was going to go to main207.org.
No, no, that's not correct.
Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry for the confusion. We didn't expect, nobody expected what was going to happen. It was actually what happened.
Okay, do we have a Schuler, people here?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes,
Go on.
hi.
It's your turn.
Hello, I have a handout for everyone.
Oh, good.
So we can see.
Yes.
Hello. I doubled up on the pages.
Thank you.
That's good. And the board has seen this report, I believe.
I think it came out,
Yeah.
Friday last week, before.
Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joanne Birch, and I'm the Schuler Scholar Program School Director at Maine East High School. And it is my understanding that we are to update the board once a year to let you know what our scholars and what our program is up to. So we've condensed this school report that we shared with Dr. Wallace and Dr. DeVarga and Dr. Pressler just a few weeks ago. And we made it just focused on the Maine East scholars and what we've been doing at Maine East. Okay? To start off with, we have 365 Schuler scholars in high school right now. 58 of them are at Maine East. We don't have any college graduates yet. We're into our third year. So the rest of this information, the college graduates and 256 in college, really doesn't apply to us just at this moment. Since our partnership with Maine East High School, we've added 3 more schools, St. Martin de Porres, and you'll see that 2005, they were originally a Schuler partnership school, but because they weren't ready to make the changes that we needed them to change as far as the curriculum, we asked them to make some changes, and then we'd be back, and we did in 2011. We've now partnered with St. Martin de Porres. We've since also partnered with 2 schools this year, North Chicago High School in North Chicago and Collins Academy in Chicago. So this is our first Chicago school on our list of partnership schools. If you go on to the next page, we talk a little bit about the financial support. There's always the question of what type of support do we provide to our students. In high school, we spend about $31,000, a little over $31,000 per student during the 4 years. That's all programming at the high school. The scholarship is a $2,500 scholarship that is good for 4 years during the 4 years that they're in college. And so that comes out to be $41,600 per student that we are committed to each Schuler Scholar. Our students have received an average non-loan college financial aid of $167,400. So it seems like it's working. The scholar selection data. Now I'll only again focus on Maine East. Our feeder schools, Gemini, Emerson, Chippewa. We have a student from, oh boy, it's slipping my mind now. One of the small private schools. Sorry, I can't think of it. I'll think of it and I'll blurt it out.
Mount Prospect.
But we had about 100. I'm sorry.
Mount Prospect, private.
No, not Mount Prospect. St. Tekla, thank you. St. Tekla, we have one student from St. Tekla. We invited about 182 students who qualified for the program. They qualified academically alone. So we worked with liaisons at each of the schools. They gave us a list of first names, and then they were able to send out a letter to those students inviting them to our family night event. Out of the 182 students that were invited, we had 49 attend. So that was not a very good number for us. And we surveyed our main schools to find out why we didn't have that. And parents are still very leery about the program. They don't understand it. Or they're concerned about camp, since part of our programming is the first thing you do this summer is go off to a 10-day leadership camp at Camp Manitowish in Wisconsin. So that still seems to be a hurdle for us that we're trying to address. One way of addressing it is we're creating a parent panel of the community to speak to other parents about the program and let them know what the camp is all about and what the program is all about. So we're changing some things to see if that will increase our numbers to the family night event, which is when we actually hand out our invitations. Out of the 49 parents that came, or families that came, we had 46 that applied. So that tells you that once they're there and they understand the program, they are definitely interested in it. Once we have our scholars selected, we have 5 areas of programming that we focus on, and I gave you a sneak preview into what our programming looks like on this chart here. We focus in academic enrichment, personal development, cultural exposures, college counseling, community service, and then obviously the scholarship, which isn't the programming. And if you have any questions about this or you want more details about the specific programming, we're happy to share whatever information you'd like. This year we were trying something new. We tried a program, web-based program called ALEX, and it's a web-based program that helps us assess the scholars as they're entering high school, what their math proficiency is. So how ready are they to take on high school math? And through these next 2 charts here, you'll see our assessment for Maine East specifically. Our 9th graders came in at 71.9%, and their final scores, their average scores were 89%. So they were able to remediate using this internet-based program, where once they answered the question right, it would move them to the next level of math and continue until they received the 90% proficiency. And then we go on to talk a little bit more about the freshman scores. The freshman scores were unbelievable. They started strong as it was. They started at 80.5%. And so there was little remediation compared to all the other schools. I think that had a little bit to do with how we went about the selection process. We looked at the highest level math, their math scores. We looked at a ton of information that gave us a pool that was very strong in math. We also have an assessment in reading. We used the Nelson-Denny to assess the vocabulary and comprehension of the scholars. And our rising juniors' initial score was 14.7 in comprehension, and they increased by 1.9. And the norm is usually 1, so that was a very nice increase for the rising juniors. Vocabulary, they started at 13.6 and moved up 14.5, so they were right there with the norms. And I also added some information here about how they rank nationally. Rising sophomores, they started at 13.5 grade level, and they increased way over 100% to 15.9, so 2.4 grade levels in 1 year. Usually when they start high, we don't see those kind of jumps, and we saw double what we had expected. And then just a quick, what are the Schuler Scholars up to this summer? We have 12 rising juniors attending summer college programs, so we have them everywhere from Stanford to Kenyon, to Princeton, Brown University. We have several students just leaving for Emory in Atlanta and Vanderbilt. So they're enjoying a few weeks being taught by professors and eating college food and living in the dorms and just having a great time. We're hearing from them, and it's been very exciting for them. We have other really great programs going on. We sent a couple of scholars to the Shakespeare Festival in Ontario, and then the Smithsonian Folk Light Festival in DC. We have several scholars taking either a math preparation course or a reading writing preparation course, and participating in environmental programs up in the UP in Michigan. And then we have several scholars doing community service across Chicago and even locally here. So that is the Schuler update. Any questions?
Yes, we have one other school that
Yes, that was mentioned during the meeting with Ms. Rowdy, our executive director, so she definitely has it in the top of her mind. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
monthly status finances.
In your packet is the May financial report. I want to point out that these reports are always on a cash basis, so while revenue looks like it's 100% received for the year, about $3 million of that is state money that'll get pulled out when we move to the accrual basis of accounting. So that's why that last state payment is really important to us. And on the expenditure side, we are tracking within budget. It looks like we're tracking less than in prior years, but recall that 2012 percentage is lower because this is the first full year when we will have those 10-month salaries that are paid in June instead of they used to be paid in July and August from the previous year. So now we go for 10 months, we go September and then run all the summer payrolls in June, which is in line with the accrual basis of accounting. I'll take any questions that you guys have on the May financial report.
Yes, we move on. And we have the instructional services.
Okay, you have a big binder of the annual review of student performance reports. I'm not going to go back over all of the reports that you had given to this year. I'll simply call your attention to the fact that it's fronted with a couple of pages of new material which has to do with specific individual accolades and competitions and awards and so forth, to give it kind of a balanced feel so that we're not just focusing on statistical numbers. But what I do want to spend the time on is the new report, which is included in that binder, and that is the college follow-up report. We haven't brought that to you yet this year, and we're prepared at this time to kind of give you some highlights from that report. I'm going to use a PowerPoint so that I can stay on script and move quickly through this. And Sean isn't here to chide me for PowerPoint too, so that works for me. First of all, I want to thank Don Omarzov for all of his help with this report as well. He's here tonight to answer any questions I might not be able to. Okay. The binder that you've got in front of you has lots of measures of success that we look at in our district, and you've got the list there. But what it tends not to do is look at things that are beyond our locus of control once they graduate. It doesn't really tell us too much about the college success rates. And our only report that we've had traditionally is the college follow-up study report, which comes from our college counselors. And you'll remember that gets compiled from Naviance and stock data and survey data that students give us, telling us where they're intending to go. We've had some questions about these reports in the past, though, because of how they're tabulated in the buildings, the timing of when they're given, the formatting, and so forth, and also the fact that it's intended colleges your kids want to go to, not actual data. So I have to stick that here for a second. So we began investigating the National Student Clearinghouse, and this is the only group, it's a nonprofit organization, that tracks the enrollments nationally of where students actually go. And they do it primarily for purposes not for high schools. They do it so that they can report out to the Department of Ed, to various state loan groups that need to know where students are, to employers who need transcripts, that kind of thing. But it's a huge database, and they've been, over the years, collecting more and more data. So now that about 94% of all post-secondary students are in this database. As I said, it's the only database that tracks 2-year and 4-year college or university enrollment. It's actual enrollment and it's degree information. And we can get from it also information about persistence and degree attendance or accomplishment. And I'll give you a little bit more data about that as we get into this. So the reports that we can get from this, we can first of all find out the percentage of our students who enroll in college that fall immediately after high school or within the first year or at any point within 8 years of graduation. And we can break it out by district or by each high school. We can see which of our students who enrolled as freshmen stayed on a year and came back as sophomore. That's called the persistence rate. We can also see the percentage that get a college degree, and we have given them enough data that we can look at it in 6 or 7 or 8 year chunks. The reports that we can get from them is helpful in tracing the progress of a single class through their entire post-secondary education. We can see when they first enrolled, how did they go straight through, or did they stop out at a certain point, come back in and re-enroll? Did they graduate? Did they totally drop out? We can see these rates compared for in-state schools, out-of-state schools, 2-year versus 4-year, public versus private. We also get from them what are the top destinations our kids go to. And we get it in individual student data forms, so we can link back to our student information system and do some of our own analysis about disaggregated groups, which will keep Don busy for years to come. So what questions did we pursue here? Well, the first one that everybody wants to know is what's the percentage of enrolling in college that fall immediately following graduation from our district? And the simple answer in 2011 was 79% of our students. You have some of these charts in your book, and I've pulled out just a few in conversation with Don that we decided to highlight. So here you can see over the last 7 years of data, the percent of students enrolled in college that fall immediately following graduation from high school. This does not include those students who might have sat out a semester and jumped in, say, in January. And we delayed our report to now, and the Education Committee will know this, hoping we get that second semester worth of data. But for a long story that's not worth sharing, basically we don't have that data yet. It's still in the works on their end. But what we figure is that this would have increased by maybe, what, 1 to 2 percentage? 1 to 3 percentage points. So you can see that their analysis of our data shows it pretty consistent over the past 7 years. So how do these self-reporting rates compare to the tracker's actual rates? Or how is the old system that we used to use compared to this new system? The dotted line on this graph are the figures that we reported out using the data from our college counselors. The solid line is the student tracker data. So it's anywhere from 6 to 8 percentage difference, except for a year 2007 where I think there was a difference in how data was gathered in one of the buildings. Next question we looked at is how does our college enrollment that fall after graduation compare to national averages? And before I show you this, you should note that the national averages are going to include students who also enrolled in second semester. So you probably need to add 1 to 3% to the numbers that we're showing. But here you can see national is in red. 68% of those students enroll in the fall after graduation. And then our schools in our district are shown thereafter: East Dispersed, then Southwest and District. Add 2 to 3 percentage points onto that so that we're looking at comparable sets. And that brings really everybody up above the national average. Where do our students primarily enroll? No surprise, this pretty much parallels the data we get from the buildings, although some people may not realize that our primary place where we're sending kids is Oakton, and that's pretty true for a lot of the North Shore schools actually, and particularly in these economic times. U of I is next, U of I is Chicago after that, and you can see the schools following. You have a more complete list in your binder and also broken up by building. So what institutions aren't reflected in the tracker data? There are going to be schools that are related to perhaps art, to certain trades, to certain for-profit schools. Ones that are listed by the tracker data are ones that have 1,000 students in enrollment or more. You can see the list there. All right, what does an individual record look like and what might it tell us? Well, there's some interesting stories to be had, and you have 3 in your binder. I'll just highlight a couple of them for you. This is a Maine West graduate, class of 2006. And you can see that they started off with a year's worth of work at Carthage College, jumped into probably a summer's worth of coursework at Oakton, went back to Carthage for the main year, then the following summer went back to Oakton, probably picking up gen ed courses, or we'll see at the end what might some other courses have been. They went back to Carthage, back to Oakton. By 2010, which is 4 years, which is not that common for someone to finish their BA in 4 years these days, they exited Carthage with a BA in math, went back to Oakton, and then was able to exit with an Oracle Database Administrative Certificate from Oakton. So it could be that as they were going to school at Carthage, during summers they were working on this Oracle database, or possibly picking up some other gen ed courses, which I know a lot of our students do as well. 2 other examples in your book that I'll just quickly highlight. At Maine South, we pulled out one in your book that was a 5-year journey. The student spent 2 years at Oakton and then finished up at the University of Iowa with a BA in Business Administration and Marketing. That was a different way of accomplishing their goals. The example in your book for Maine East, 4 years at U of I, a summer at Oakton, got their BS degree. Then the tracker data showed us that there were 2 more years they spent at George Institute of Technology to get their master's in mechanical engineering. And I bring that to your attention because that shows us we can see even beyond the 4-year bachelor's degree where our kids go and what they accomplish. So what's the status of our students 5 years after enrolling in college? Well, this is a good graph to look at. Nationally, 52% have attained a degree, 15% are still enrolled, and 33% have stopped and they have not obtained a degree. We compared that in the following way. Instead of 52%, we have 58% after 5 years who have a degree district-wide. 19% still enrolled and 23% have stopped with no degree. And of course that varies by building, and you've got the detail on that in the book. What can we learn from following the journey of a given cohort or class of graduates? Well, this is my favorite chart out of all of them. And I know you can't see the detail on the screen necessarily, but even if you look at the pattern of the color, you'll be able to see in the first column on the left that about 80% of our students enrolled in 2004, this is the class of 2004, by the way, they enrolled in a 2 or 4 year program, and about 19 to 20% did not. In talking with Don, we kind of decided that it looks like if a student doesn't start in their first, say, 1 to 3 years, they're probably not going to enroll, because then the number sort of flattens out after that in terms of those who are not enrolled. So I think it's almost critical that we look at helping kids get launched in the first 1, 2, or 3 years out. Only a third finish a 2 or 4 year program in 4 years. And about half, or a little bit more than half, do it in 6. 12 to 13% never show up in the National Student Clearinghouse database. That could be because they're not going to a college that reports, or that there's other destinations for them. Maybe they jump right into a career, maybe they go into the military. Over 20% who start never finish in 7 years. So where are those students that are not captured by the tracker data? Well, if you look at the class of 2011 data, which is our most recent, there were 20% that were not in that data, about 327 students. And we found 4% of them reported other plans through the Naviance data to us. And Don cross-matched a lot of this and came up with the numbers that you see on the screen. Even one person saying that they were going to take the year off and write a book, which I kind of liked, actually.
It's an AP student too, so I believe it.
Yeah. And then about 16%, or 262 other students, they said they were going to go to a school that does report to National Student Clearinghouse, but the National Student Clearinghouse found that, at least for us, they never did enroll. So we're assuming that they didn't enroll, we don't know the reason, maybe they went right into a job, maybe they have to sit out for financial reasons, maybe they just are taking a break for whatever reason, but there's your 20%. So, future questions we're going to go after perhaps, and I'm sure this list could be longer. We are able now probably to look at various disaggregated groups of students. For example, those students perhaps that go through some of our at-risk programming. Do they go to college? How do they do? Does it take them longer? What do they major in? Not all colleges are going to tell us the major, but more and more will be adding to that, I'm sure. Don, right now, what's the percentage you would say we can see the major for?
I would say it's less than half. Most of them just report that there was a degree award and they might say it was a Bachelor of Science, but they're not
Necessarily going to say in math or
Right.
whatever. Okay. What are the eventual majors of students taking certain clusters of courses? Like we had a question come up at NSERV about our Project Lead the Way kids. Do they go into engineering? They take all of these courses with us, but do they end up going into engineering? So we have the ability now, as soon as we get enough data stacked up, these kids graduating and getting to college, to see whether or not they do go into engineering. How does all this data relate to all this ACT and EPAS predictive information? You know, we have ACT telling us only a certain percentage of kids are going to be successful. Well, we have the ability now to see and track back against their profile whether or not that's accurate data from ACT, and I know Ken would probably say it's not. And finally, how does our college advising need to change? Are we finding out things about kids' ability to succeed at certain places that far exceed our opinions, or maybe they're struggling in certain ways too? The last thing I wanted to say is, and this came up at the education committee and at our instructional team committees, that these are different numbers than we've reported before. And we both groups agreed that we want to go forward looking at the accurate numbers, not estimations, not what students say they're going to do, but we want to talk about what they're actually doing. But we need you to know, we need the public to know, that we're probably one of the few districts out there that are making that decision. Even the schools that are starting to use National Student Clearinghouse data aren't necessarily brave enough yet to make that leap. So we're gonna have to be really clear and have some bridge conversations with people to explain why one year we had 89% and now we have 80%. It isn't a drop in our college enrollment, it's just now we have numbers that we can verify because we have the NSC data to back it up. So we're going to be real clear on our school profile report, which accompanies our transcripts, to explain why the numbers have changed. We're going to be real clear in whatever communications we put out about that so that it's real clear about why the numbers are changing. And I'm also going to continue talking with my colleagues in the other CADC districts to encourage them to also consider making that change. Do you have any questions?
So any district in our comparables, unless we compare ourselves to, that's looking at this point, is it just us?
Right now, there are others who are using it, but no one else has said that they're going to start using that on their school profile report. And I haven't, I only got a handful of responses there yet. But I think eventually it's going to be a moot point because I think the new school report card that's coming out will probably have to tap into some data like this that's captured nationally. And since the National Student Clearinghouse is the only database nationally that's doing this, my guess is they'll start using it and it'll start being reported outside of our control anyway. So.
Thank you. Monthly update on reporting.
7 requests this month, 6 processed, 1 pending.
Our consent agenda.
I'd like to say we remove the June 15th minutes, which is item 5A, the third item, at a comment on. I'm not sure what I'd like to talk about, but we move that to the consent agenda.
Okay. Anything else?
Move to accept the agenda as modified.
I'm sorry, that modification include the removal of the second item under number 9.
Well, that's not on the consent. We are going to
Oh,
remove
I'm
that.
sorry.
We are going to remove that, though.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Never mind. 5, 6, 9.
Okay.
Been a while.
Anything else? Anything else?
Oh, I think,
I made the motion.
Made the motion.
Yeah, second, second,
Yeah,
and what's the
second.
second? Very good. Right.
We're ready.
Lees,
Aye.
Graham,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
McGrath,
aye.
Teller.
Yes. Now, what's, you have some questions about the.
Right, as you recall, I voted against the union contract, and I asked to be included as part of the minutes, the reasons which I picked up. And I also asked that the minutes refer to the attachment. Now, I think the minutes are fairly accurate in saying what I said about the parties that the job and other et cetera. It also kind of obliquely refers to the handout that I gave, but what it doesn't say, which I specifically requested, was that the handout that I gave out would be filed as part of the board books. So if it was indeed filed, if you're looking at the result of the meeting, then I would like to have the minutes changed. If it wasn't filed, I'm good with that too, because I can put it in other items tonight or something. So I would like it to be clear in the minutes that the handout, which is indeed referred to, is part of the record of the meeting. That's what I'd like to do. So I don't know, is my handout part of the record of the meeting, so if somebody's looking at the record of the meeting, they see the handout?
It will be with us, probably.
Okay.
I should get that in.
Okay, in that case, what I would just like to amend the minutes to say, where it says, member Miller disputed a comment sheet explaining the reasons why I voted against the collective bargaining agreement I looked at, which is filed as part of the minutes of this meeting, unless there's any objection.
Do we need to vote on that?
We can have it separate.
Yeah.
So, we just need a motion for.
So I moved approval of
Okay,
the
so a second?
That's correct.
I'll second.
Okay. Yes. McGrath,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Graham,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Heller.
The tentative budget, the recommendation is that we approve the tentative budget for 2012, 2013 fiscal year as presented.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Do we have any questions?
I was hoping maybe someone would give us an overview.
The tentative budget for 2012-13 has the district with a budgeted surplus of $2.8 million. About $2 million of that surplus is directly related to the orphanage programs. As you may know, the Youth Campus program and the Scott Nolan program, our two orphanage programs, ceased at the end of this year. And therefore, we'll have the revenue from those programs in next year, because the state pays 1 year in arrears, but we won't have the expenditures. About $800,000 represents what may be a true surplus, and that's less than 1% of our budget. Our budgeted revenues grew by about $1.2 million, primarily as a result of the property tax levy, while our expenditures decreased $2.7 million. $2 million of that is related again to the orphanage program, so you'll see that our expenditures did shrink. And then we didn't replace some of the retirees, as well as replacing some of the retirees with much lower paid teachers. So those are the types of things that added to our reductions in expenditures for next year. Over the next several months, we'll take a look at the final state numbers as they come out. What if the state makes that last payment, if they don't, and how that will impact the budget. We'll get some of our final grant numbers, and we're also finalizing some of the programs that we wanted to do. We didn't know how this year's budget would turn out until we put it together at the end of June. So there's some technology purchases we may be looking at for next year. But we will detail any changes we make to the tentative budget when we bring the budget back. We are scheduled to have a public hearing on the budget in August, and then we'll adopt the budget in September. At the board's desire, we could have a finance committee workshop in July to go through the budget in details. We've done that some years. We've not done that in some years. The budget as it's presented is kind of on a pyramid approach, so it starts with a summary of all of the funds, then a summary of each fund, and then goes into the funds in greater detail, so you can see by function area, such as regular education, special education, what's going on in that budgeted area.
Any questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. I noticed that the executive summary of the tentative budget cost for property taxes are projected to increase 2.8%, or about $2.5 million as a result of the CPI changes. For that reason, I'm against the property tax increases, and I know I got my tax bill this week, and I was surprised to see that my taxes went up 11%, which perhaps the guys having a little fun with me for my prior vote against their tax increases. But in any event, I haven't really studied the budget. I'm sure that we're drawing a lot of concessions out of everybody, but I do not support a property tax increase in this economy. And for that reason alone, I vote against the final budget, and did we anticipate a vote against the final budget in the next year?
I have one question. With dug through and seen, look through a little bit, a question about pension obligations and where any potential pension obligations that will be down to the state, are these reflected here, or we just have it because we don't have any idea what they might be and when they're going to hit?
We haven't. The earliest projections, when they thought there was a potential that they were going to do pension reform in the spring session, they said the earliest they could implement any push down to school districts would be the 13-14 fiscal year. So I'm fairly confident with them not taking any action on the pensions in the spring session that it's not going to happen this year. If it happens, it'll happen with the 13 or 14 budget at the earliest.
Okay, so, but we wouldn't, just trying to balance out, I know that we are showing not running a deficit for 12-13. If we take out the one-time items, it's a very small,
Very small.
very small. Then we'll have fixed increasing costs in 13-14 and 14-15, which we put some controls on those in the new contract. And then potential for pension reform.
This looks like, it should be, because I mean, if you just run pure numbers of our 3-year contract, 12-13 has the lowest salary increase. So we'll have fixed salary increases that are larger than the, in essence, freeze we have for next year. We'll have the potential for pension reform and additional costs to the districts. For every 1% they push to the school district, it's about $650,000.
And they're projected to push.
There was a proposal to do it in 1% increments over time. So it would be 1% in 13-14, 2% in 14-15, and so on and so forth, until they came up with the true normal cost, which they're not even sure what that number is.
Is that something like 13 or 14%, is it?
No, it shouldn't be more than 8, but they're thinking that along with any proposed pension changes could drop that to like 6%. So they just haven't run their numbers accurate enough.
And just, because they don't spend a huge amount of time on public pension accounting and finance, when we look at the pensions, are the costs that they're pushing down to us based on the fact that pension funds are currently underfunded?
What they have done is they have said that the cost of underfunding, so the state not making their payments, is a cost that they will bear. So right now, the state has to pay in about 23% of everyone's salary into TRX. 2/3 of that amount is because of past contributions that they have not made. 1/3 of that amount represents the normal cost of, if they had funded the pension all along, it would be about an 8.6% contribution. So they're not going to push the full 23% on the school districts. They're recognizing that they are responsible for the payments that they have not made in the past.
There's another movement that I follow this pretty closely, Margaret, and that is that there's a report due out that shows that their method of calculating returns is all messed up. And so that if it's an actuarial.
Yeah, well, there's a whole question about that, because I know there was a movement to push the calculation method that I think they've adopted now in the public sector on the private sector in terms of, in the tax code. And it was really rejected because it was absurd. It guaranteed that you were underfunded. I mean, we're constantly fighting and trying to get pension reform in Congress right now because the historically low interest rates are inflating the liabilities tremendously. When you're discounting at 2% or 3% instead of the 7 or 8% you probably should be discounting it, your liabilities just balloon out, especially when you've got liabilities that are going to be paid 40 and 50 years from now. So it's hard to say in this current economy, who's underfunded. If it was a normal economy, we're looking at normal interest rates and normal discounting. There's so many pensions out there that would not be underfunded, and businesses wouldn't be pumping, $500 million into their pension fund and be able to invest that in growth for their businesses. But I know that the public side, they didn't win the battle that the private side did a little better on, and even that is, devastating, getting really skewed numbers, where returns would have to stay at the interest rates would have to stay at the historically low levels they're at right now, basically for the next 50 years for those kind of liabilities to come into play. So a lot of concern about how they've set this up almost as a game where there's just no way that those liabilities are actually ever going to be the real liabilities for the system, but we're going to be paying based on those liabilities. And I don't know when that turns around and they say, oh, you've overpaid.
Well, hopefully they'll adopt an approach where they take an actuarial approach, even using flawed models better than what they have done in the past, which is no model, they implement pension changes, and then several years go by and they figure out what the cost of those changes are in an unfunded liability. So the fact that they're actually talking actuarials, it is good news to me.
I actually had a letter on my personal name published in Great Chicago Business, which said, look, if the state is going to pass along the normal cost, which was the Madigan proposal that wasn't voted on, to the school districts, we need to have the ability to address alternatives to pensions, because it's you know, the state doesn't do a good job resisting pressure to begin with. But now you take the funding, which they completely butchered. You know, 85 billion, the new number I've heard, which is 3 times that, whatever it is a lot of butchering. But imagine that they could change the formula without any legal liability to pay the pension.
Yeah, I mean, on the private side, if you're gonna up your formula, you're gonna change your formula, especially if it means you're gonna be more underfunded, you've gotta pony up the bucks up front in order to make that change. You can't just go and make that
Or
change.
make changes, which a lot of business, this really what I argued for in the article was, you know, you need to have the ability to look at alternatives, you know, and address retirement age, or go to different types of plans altogether. And this is all pipe dream, I realize, but nevertheless, if you're funding, if you're responsible, and you're negotiating as part of your overall package, you should have the ability to break the mold in the state system and go, for example, with a K plan, or go, for example, with, you know, something other than, you know, the 55 and out retirement plan, whatever it is. So,
Well, and I think, you know, school districts have the additional burden of not, you know, the public sector have the additional burden of the statewide plans that are managed by someone, not the people who are eventually paying for it. So we don't have any control over what is happening with the investments. We don't have any, you know, I mean, there's a lot of changes in pension investments in the private sector, you know, liability-driven funding, where you're matching your liabilities and your assets up, and you're doing, you know, different things to manage the growth of that. You know, make sure your liabilities and your assets are matched up, which we just don't have any control over that.
that's my point right now, was if you've got the liability, you should have some control over what it looks like. Because otherwise, if you think it's out of control now, imagine again what it could look like if the people making decisions on retirement age and sweeteners and, you know, credits for sick days and all those things didn't have to pay. Now I know they
No
did.
skin in the game.
Now I know.
No skin in the game on that.
I know they botched it anyway, and it's easy to sit there and say, well, you know, it's 85 billion, or maybe again 2 or 3 times that, but it could be worse. I mean, they didn't have any responsibility for the normal pension cost. Imagine what could happen.
And they have no responsibility for the investment returns. So I don't, you know, I think it's really a perfect storm of, you know, how to really sink a ship here in terms of the overall pension for, there just isn't any controls on it that,
Frankly, I heard.
the taxpayer who's ultimately bearing the burden. We're elected officials, we have no control over any of it.
I heard a rumor that that's why Joanna's moving to Massachusetts.
Where are we on this now?
We ever get,
We have to take a vote.
We have to take a vote, we had a discussion about whether or not pension costs were.
I forgot.
It's
Segueing off.
Jenny, that we think pension system is a disaster, and
Voting on
it's not reflected in here, because we don't think anything's happening next year.
tentative budget, we're voting on the tentative budget. Do we have a motion?
We do a motion, Lays, and second is
Okay.
McGrath. Aye. Burke.
Yes.
Lays.
Aye.
Miller.
No.
Graham.
Yes.
Heller.
Yes. The compliance with the chapter for the Illinois revised statute for prevailing rate of wages. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Just to be clear, nothing new here, this is the,
It's an annual thing.
yeah,
It's the annual thing, we're required to do it by law.
But you're going to hear a voice coming up a little bit. It is so stupid. It's overpaid people. But it is the law. I just can't go yes anymore.
That's okay.
Lays.
Aye.
Graham.
Yes.
Miller.
No.
McGrath. And
Heller.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Burke. I'm sorry.
We have everything? Okay. Resolution to approve ratings, leaving for special positions.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, it's going to be an overview of where we are with all this.
We gave you the teachers previously, these are just some of the specialist positions, nurses, school psychologists, speech pathologists, and so it's the continuation of that work.
We have one left. One
Yeah,
left.
we have one left.
Library. Anything unusual about these particular?
No.
And they're very, very, very good, and we, work together to put them through, they're all based on the Danielson model, and we significant steps in the right direction.
And similar to the ones we looked at?
Very built off the same kind of framework.
Lees,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Graham,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
McGrath, and Heller.
Yes.
Okay, 9, let's pull the occupational therapist contract, so on 9 will just be the COTG management services.
Looking for a motion? I move 9A, second, or sign it, 9, the first one. COTG management services.
Yep.
McGrath. Aye. Graham,
Yes.
Lees,
Aye.
Burke,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Heller.
Yes. Use of facilities.
The one after the motion, second, it was on it.
So moved. Second there, on item 10.
Okay, and you have a comment?
The modification to this is that consistent with last year, they would be charged $5 an hour. So I was hoping to go in today to make sure that that is consistent with what we've done in the past. So it's not a full waiver, it's a partial waiver.
Are they providing any,
Yes, they are, for any student who the SPS department provides to them is in need of financial need, they will scholarship them.
And you
Burke,
Yes.
Graham,
Yes.
McGrath, Miller,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Heller.
Yes. Calendar items, we have the August 6th. And then we have the public hearing on our regular budget. Is there anything else?
Okay.
Do we have any other items? Do we have any communication? Do we have closed session? Okay, for, student personnel, review of closed session, we have that.
Yes.
And appointment, employment compensation. Yes. And the imminent, resolution for the net, okay, and what are the doses? Okay.
Move to go into closed session for the reasons indicated.
Second.
14B to E.
McGrath, Miller,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Graham,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Heller.
Yes.